Welcome back to this week's episode of MVP Real Estate Podcast, Season 3, Episode 21. We got CJ Harris this week. A very interesting story, especially for those who are starting out or thinking about getting into real estate. His hustle is incredible. What he's done in 3 years with no money, none of his own money, is impressive. He's flipped, he's house hacked. He talks a big portion of a flop that he had that he turned into actually a nice generating rental property. So he considers himself a rookie. You guys can take a listen, see what you think, but I don't think there's much rookie about him in 3 years. But what do you think? Rookie?
I would say no.
No.
Not a rookie.
He has been, he's gone through HELOCs, he's gone through commercial, residential loans.
DSCR.
Yeah, he is a good person if you're thinking about starting. He left his contact information at the end. If you're going to BPCon, any of the listeners, he's going to be there. But man, he's a really good story for anybody trying to start out. Let's bring him on. Yeah. Well, CJ, thank you for coming on the show. We appreciate your time. Are you traveling right now? Because I know before the show you were saying you travel a lot.
I am. I'm in a hotel right now.
All right. Where are you at currently?
I am in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Awesome. And you said originally from Mississippi, but living in Florida right now, right?
That's it. That is correct.
Awesome. Well, we always start the show the same way, about a little bit of background about you.
Okay.
So I always say like 30 seconds to a minute of like where you came from, and it can be a little bit longer. I just don't want to put like a 5-minute limit on it. So just a brief
absolutely. Okay.
Hey, who is CJ? Where did CJ come from? And how did we get to where we're at?
Got it. Well, my name is Clarence Harris. They call me CJ Harris. And I consider myself a rookie real estate investor. I started back in 2020, and I bought a duplex back in 2020 where I did a BRRRR project on. And I had no money when I started, so I used a HELOC, I used a personal line of credit, I used credit cards, and a lot of different things. So when it comes to properties that I have owned, I've done full gut rehab, I've done 3 BRRRRs, I have used commercial lending, I've used private lending, I have house hack, I have had short-term rentals. Converting some of my long-term rentals into short-term rentals. I've done quite a bit. I've used commercial lending, DSCR lending, personal mortgages. And honestly, I think I'm the type of rookie that I've done a lot in real estate. And I'm now at the point where I'm dangerous enough about a little bit of everything to where I'm ready to start investing. It's been very hard to call myself a real estate investor because I just hadn't found the perfect niche, but I put my hand in a lot of different places so far. And I think now I'm ready for tier 2 investing, if that's a thing.
I like that. Yeah, as you were going about your story, you're farther and farther away from a rookie investor. I mean, you've got multiple properties, you've dabbled in short-term and long-term, different types of investing strategies. That BRRRR method is actually where I started as well. I love taking the ugliest house on a really cool block and just like giving it a second life. I thought that was very satisfying for me to see that project go through.
Me too as well. My first, second, third, I first bought a duplex, and then I bought a single family home, and then I bought a house that I wanted to be a flip, but it turned into a flop. But back
we
in
will
those
get into
days,
that one.
Yeah. Back in those days, I think I still had a little equity, and it was in a sense my third accidental BRRRR, because so that I wouldn't lose money on it, I just refinanced it and kept it. And I think one of the things that's pretty unique to my story is that I started off with absolutely zero money. I did own a home, and I took out a home equity line of credit on that home. I went to the bank and they wanted to give me an 80% loan to value on that. But I was persistent enough to find a bank that could do 100% loan to value.
Good for you.
This particular house I owned, and it was the difference between $15,000 and $50,000, in this scenario. But as I was sitting there, they were like, hey, we already ran your credit. So here's another $20,000 credit card, that we can add. And the unique thing about this financial product is that you can move all of that cash into your account and use it like cash. So now I got $70,000, all borrowed money. Right before all of that, I had got a $20,000 personal line of credit. So now I got my little $90,000 and I'm thinking, okay, let's go ahead and do this BRRRR. I bought a property in Mississippi while I was living in Florida. It was a duplex, full gut. This house was just trash. But I paid $65,000 for a duplex that nobody wanted. Probably like you guys do, find those type properties. And the rehab ended up being $65,000. So as you can see, I didn't have enough. But I went back to another bank and asked for a personal line of credit. I just asked for money. And they gave me a $14,000 line of credit. Same day, I went to another bank and they gave me a $10,000 line of credit. And I was like, I told my wife, I said, hey, you need to go and get a line of credit as well. And this was January 2020, right before COVID hit, where banks were offering lines of credit. And so one of the things I did, I was able to complete this rehab. It was $165,000. It appraised for $200,000. Of course, I refinanced that, and the bank only gave me 65% loan to value, which was $130,000 that I had initially paid for that project. So I was able to pay off all of those loans, and now they're back to zero. I was able to go into the second property with the same money. Essentially, all of my portfolio was actually acquired in this same way. And it was using somebody else's money. Again, none of the money came out of my own pocket. And, I tell that story all the time. And people always ask me about, how did I make the payments on all those lines of credit? Well, honestly, I'm going to use this term. I think it floats around the internet now with velocity banking. Now, I don't know if I want to call it that, but I had 5 lines of credit. Let's pretend like one was $500, one was $400, one was $300, 2 $100 payments. A lot of people will see $500, $900, $1000, $1200. They'll see $1,500 amongst those lines of credit. But because I was doing the BRRRR method, I only saw $500 because I could put $500 in to pay this account off, and I could pull $400 out. And I could take that same $400 and pay this one and pull $300 out. Because I knew I was trying to get to the refinance step, even those holding costs were not as high as somebody may think they were. And so I was able to float it, and I was able to get to the end. And once I learned that, and once I became confident with real estate and financial products, because, the both of us know that those two things go hand in hand. It doesn't matter if you got a cheap property and your financing is awful. It doesn't matter that you got great financing and you're paying too much for your property. And so, I know I mentioned earlier, from a, I guess a certain perspective, I do still consider myself a rookie. But as I was thinking about that, talking about that on this podcast, I thought about it. Right now, I'm at the point that I have learned so much with so many different products. Like I said, I think I'm ready now to know which product is good for which situation. We talk about experience. A lot of times, some of the things that did not work in a particular situation, that's what experience teaches you, is that you can use that for another situation because you've done it. It didn't work right here, but wow, this will be perfect for right here.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've used hard money. I've used private lending as well. And so, like I said, I haven't niched out yet. And that's what I really want to do is try to find my niche. And
Yeah.
I think that I'm ready to I don't know, I guess I just wanted to talk about it because
No,
one of the
that's
things
an awesome,
Mhm.
awesome story. And what the listeners
Yep.
don't know yet is all of that being done in all the chaos
Yes.
that's going on. You still had a W-2 job during that whole
Yes,
period.
yeah, that
So
is true.
the stressors not only of starting the investing route while also doing your duties as your W-2 employee hat as you're wearing, that's a lot of
Yes,
stress going on. So
it
if you
is.
consider yourself in terms of time as a rookie, your hustle is like veteran level because
I,
that's commendable.
well, I guess so. And you know, like I said, right now I've done so many different things. The creativity comes to me. You know, I think I like real estate because of the creativity, not just from changing the layout to a house, but even the creativity when it comes to financing. And you know, right now I I still own 3 properties. I've sold some of those Burr projects since then, and you know, made good money. And honestly, the of course I want to do it for money, but I have not made it to that point to where I can say I really got a good income coming from my properties. I do it now just because I love it. You
Mhm.
know, I love the systems, I love the processes, I love the creativity. You know, it fits my personality. So
Yeah. No, that's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
And uh I don't think you mentioned, how did you get tipped onto the duplex that you found? That first deal.
Um, Early on, I had a lender, or let me say, I had a real estate agent in Mississippi, and you know, I was introduced to him by somebody else. I knew this concept of being an investor friendly realtor and I'm selling you your dream home realtor.
Yeah.
Man, very unique, 2 different people.
Yes.
And
And
and this
hopefully,
guy,
like, that's a message that listeners can take. Interview
oh
your
my
agent because
God,
there's different agents and they tip you off to different deals. So that is a very, very good point.
absolutely. 2 different people. And this guy, he found most of my other properties since then. And but basically I was introduced to him. But I knew that at the time. Now I know you guys have mentioned bigger pockets, but I'm a student of that. I listen to all the podcasts. I've listened to most of your podcasts because you know, once I signed up for the podcast, I was like, let me go this route. You know, you kind of got stuck in the bigger pockets world, but it's refreshing to have found a new podcast out there that I can listen to. And just, you know, from that standpoint, I knew that I should find an investor friendly real estate agent. And again, it was long distance. He helped me with some of the construction. He would go by there and check on, see where my
That's
construction
nice.
workers were. Yeah. And by this time, I had found a property manager that I wanted to use. And she went over and she was like, hey, you forgot a closet rod right here. You know, the tenants aren't going to do this. And essentially, like a book that I read that helped me understand how to do the long distance investing.
Yep.
Those are some of my key people.
Yep. Those property managers are very, very important.
Oh yeah, especially when they know you. And that she was a friend of mine, and wanted to see me succeed as well as you know starting her property management business.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
that
And
was
you
pretty
mentioned
cool.
long distance. Is that because you were still in Mississippi as you bought this duplex in Florida?
So when I moved to Florida, the money that I had acquired through those lines of credit was not enough. In my mind, I wanted to buy a house cash. And that's why those lines of credit allowed me to do that. But that wasn't enough. That wasn't enough cash to buy in Florida. So I said, okay, I'm familiar with Mississippi. That's where I'm originally from. I have friends over there that can help me. And and that's another key point. A lot of people look at long distance investing. They may say, hey, let me go to I don't know, the Midwest to invest. But when you do long distance investing, I think you need to have some type of competitive advantage on the ground.
Yep.
I would suggest starting in places where you have family members at. You know, don't just pick a random town because having that connection on the ground is very important. Hey, I got a family member who lives in Timbuktu. That would be the first place I would look if your backyard is not appropriate. Even though somebody may suggest that these other towns are better for long distance investing, you just need somebody on the ground as well that can tell you what neighborhood, is good, what area is good. You need something on the ground over there to make that happen. And that's what I had in Mississippi.
Yeah.
I had friends, family, college buddies, just the whole nine there. And that's what made me pick that area.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I mean, numbers are great on paper. You can look at this town and say
Yes.
like, okay, great rental market, houses are
Right.
good price. But if you have no one to move the needle, you can buy the house,
Can't
and if
do
you
it.
don't know that the repairs are getting done or the property's being
Right.
managed, numbers are
Yep.
numbers.
Yep. If nothing else, hey, do you know a handyman? You call your cousin and ask them, do they know a handyman?
Yeah.
That's better than looking through the Google to find one.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And then there's the whole I know we did a show on how to vet your property manager, some questions to ask and some things to do to make sure you're getting an appropriate property manager for your asset class or your investing strategy.
Yeah, that's true. I with that in mind, and this is another thing that I'm learning about business, is that I used a property manager, but honestly, I can remember sitting at my desk, a couple of days and nights writing up my property manager's protocol and the way that I wanted to manage my property. And then I passed that to my property manager and asked her, is this something that she can follow? And she said, yeah. And so
That's a very good idea.
Yeah, on one way you can, you allow them to give you what they give you. But I was like, hey, let's do this kind of my way. And so I wrote it all up for myself, typed it up, reading books. And like I said, I was a student of it. And all the good ideas that I thought to have. And I created my own protocol and said, hey, I have a property. It's a duplex. I pay, this percentage. I had my little things in there, how we handled the deposit and all of that type of stuff. And she was like, yeah, I can do this. I was like, oh, okay. Well, there we go. It's a spinoff of my business, but it's something that she followed well, and she was amazing. So,
yeah. And that's actually where I started as well. When I started investing, before I bought a house, I had wrote down what I expected to see out of me managing my own properties, and I knew future I'd be managing other people's. So I knew if that's what I want to see, I know that they're going to want to see it. So I knew that the transparency was going to have to be there.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Payments would have to be able to be seen both ways. So now we're on a software system where if you own a house, we're managing it, you can log on and see rent being paid. You can see damages of pictures going up. Everything is a very, very fluid system, which is something that I needed for myself, and I know other people want as well.
Yeah,
so true. I like that tactic. I do.
Oh yeah, yeah. But she took on the first two properties, and then my real estate agent found another property that I refinanced out of one and went right into the next one. We did the same thing, and on to the third one. By the time we got to the third one in Mississippi,
is this the flop?
Yes.
All right, good. Because that was my next question. Awesome.
By the time I got to my third one, I realized that I was, acquiring properties, but I needed a flip at the time. And things were going good. I had my same contractor for both of those properties that I had, but this one was a little bit further away from the town that I was investing in, which was Jackson, Mississippi, by the way. And this third property was a little bit further out, so I had to get another contractor. But, maybe I got complacent with things going so well. I got things going. But my third contractor came on site. Good property. It turned out that I had to demo kind of the whole front side of the house more than what I expected. And I learned a lot from that. Water damage came from the roof through some of the walls on the front side of the house, which made all of the walls messed up. You can see the roof damage, but you can't see the wall damage and the floor damage. Mm-hmm. And so But now I know.
Yes.
Knowing is half the battle. But
and that was probably a defect that you couldn't see
absolutely
without getting into demo, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
We had one of those as well, where it went
Yep.
south before you could actually get to working.
Absolutely. But again, I was using finance money, and I was still floating my bills like I needed to float them. So again, in my mind, it still is technically none of my money. And I had enough to finance that project, but I had put too much in it to where the sale of that property would not have been well. So I think I put it on the market for 1 or 2 months. With all my holding costs, it was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I was like, I just have to stop the bleeding. And so I decided to BRRRR that property. So I went to get a commercial loan, and I like those now. It was they still give you like the 15-year type of product, but the principal pay down per month is a lot faster than the 30-year products. And so from that standpoint, my goal there was still to sell this property, but I needed somebody else to pay it off. Yep. That's a tenant. That's a tenant. And so I held on to that property for about a year. Well, I actually still own that property, but I had a tenant turnover. So it was in a small town, and in this small town, a lot of what I had to rent my house, it wasn't that affordable, right, for the tenant pool that I had in this small town. And it was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. But this is where a pad split. People call it pad split. In some cases we call them house hack or splitting this house.
Yeah.
But I actually literally put 1, 2, 3 2x4s to block off the master bedroom on the back side of the house. The master bedroom had its own entrance. I added a 1-wall kitchen, stove, sink, microwave above it, refrigerator on this wall. I had basically set it up like a studio. I rented the front side of that house as a 3-1, and the back side of that house I turned into an Airbnb.
Ooh, I like that.
And yeah, so it was a pad split that I rented the front side for the same thing that I had been renting out the 4-2. And the back side is now an Airbnb that brings in more income. And one of the things now, I've started to get real creative with those type of layouts, because right now long-term rent is not going to do it. It's just it's hard. I mean, I guess if you find a property that is inexpensive enough that you don't have a lot in it, but you really got to figure out a way how to make more money on the properties that you do have. So with that in mind, I basically doubled the rent over on that particular property by doing that. And so I wanted to sell it.
That's your hustle. That's your expert hustle coming into play right there.
Yeah, I guess so. There was some capital expenses to get to that point, but now I got this 15-year product that's aggressively paying down my loan. And now I also have the rent, and it's performing like it needs to perform. And, this flip that turned into a flop, again, sometimes you have to stop and stabilize what you have and try to make it profitable. And so I think I'm at that point now at that property. We're really stabilizing. We got Airbnb tenants coming through there. Some direct bookings on that particular property. And so, I'm pretty excited about that one. And so then the next property I had was a BRRRR in Florida, because now I'm investing in Florida. And that was pretty cookie cutter. But I also just turned my personal property, did the same pad split, and now I'm renting that on Airbnb in Gainesville, Florida. And I can't keep that one vacant. There are no vacancies.
That's a very good problem
on that particular one. Very good problem to have. And so now I'm at the point where I stabilize my portfolio, and I'm just sitting. And I'm ready to get into my next project. So that's why I am.
Do you think you're gonna sit more with the rental properties, or do you think you'd want to go more into the the flips?
Well, I need to
Because now
flip
it's in your
one or two.
backyard, right? Now it's in your
Yes,
backyard.
yes.
It's a little bit more
Yeah,
manageable.
absolutely. Yeah, I got a good friend that I joke with all the time. She's a part of our real estate investment group. But we always talk about we are sometimes equity rich, but cash poor. you know, so we need a flip here. I do need a flip somewhere because, the rent on its own doesn't, we do all this work. We know the equity is there, but we don't really have, a few dollars in our pocket to enjoy, you know, those dollar signs that we created, without some type of flip. So I do need one or two flips. And I think if I did that and have some cash, because again, I've used other people's money, I'm refinancing, and my only real income is coming from the rental properties. A lot of equity. And I did sell one of those properties, one of the birds, the duplex that I had, and brought some income there, and it appreciated, pretty good, about $50,000 in 2 years, and I was, happy with that. Again, I only paid 130 for it, but I sold it for 250. So, that was one of those scenarios. But some of those dollars went back to help me out of this flop, because I still had some debt on that flop. So
we had the flop you had. We ended up still clearing a little bit of a profit, but it was not what we expected. Our expenses went up because I bought it. It was actually on the market, which was the first house we actually bought on the market. Usually we do mailers or calls. And there was so much water damage that the floor was deflected about 3 inches from the outside of the center. So we ended up having to tear everything down. There's a lot of framing issues that it would have costed the same, well, probably more to try and fix what was damaged than just to tear it and restart. So it was a complete new build. And we were right on that cusp of like, okay, do we hold on to this way too big of a rental and just try to pay down debt? It won't cash flow, but it'll pay down, and then try to sell it in a couple of years. But yet the timing was also very weird because we were right around that COVID timeline where things were scary. People weren't buying as much, but prices were inflated. It was a crazy, crazy time. And I think it went so fast and there was so much chaos that I lose what I was thinking. Like in the moment, this was the part of the build we were on. Was I thinking about renting it at that point, or was I thinking about flipping it and selling it? And it got
crazy. I'm
just glad we got out from under it. Sounds like you did pretty well on that one as well.
Yeah. And and I guess going back to what I'm calling my rookie story, it takes some experience in this business to kind of move forward. I'm a lot more patient now. I'm a lot more comfortable now. And with the ups and downs, I can't say it's hard to lose in real estate because it is. But, for somebody who's wanting to get started, there's a way, and like I said, I even use some private lending. And I think you can, I encourage everybody. I know that my net worth, because now you kind of track net worth, even though you ain't got no money in the bank, you track net worth. And I have seen it grow, over the last 3 years that I've started in real estate. So it's definitely doable. And not only that, like I said, I sold a property and made a pretty good penny off of it. Essentially, if you can do one a year, it doesn't take the speed, and especially from a rookie standpoint. I know you guys may do 10 properties a year, but even from a rookie standpoint, if you can do one a year, one the next year, and then you can go back and start selling off, some properties that you had and keep doing one a year. And then you can start getting sale income as well as rental income. And you can just keep doing that. So many different strategies to play this game.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. I would love to be able to do 10 deals a year. No, I think the biggest year I think was 4. So it's not as much as you think. And some of them were bigger
Yeah.
projects, like new builds, and
Yes.
those take time.
Of course.
But obviously
Of
there's
course.
some deals that are a couple months where you just do some minor upkeep and renovating,
Yeah.
and then you can sell them again or put them on the
Yeah.
market and rent them. So
That's true. And that's true. And I tell you what, just thinking about just creativity, and I excuse me for kind of butting in right there, but
no, you're
even
good.
the property that I bought in Gainesville, Florida, it was a complete gut rehab, and I did the rehab, but it came with two infield lots on
Yep.
this property. I probably sold those lots for I think $20,000. And in my mind, I really wanted to build on them because it was a lot that they were combined, and I could have built a multifamily on it. But I sold them. And that was the easiest $20,000 I ever made in my life. And so, sometimes just the risk and the reward. Man, I know I'm probably rambling and all over the place, but it's so many different ways to be creative in this business.
Right. You
And
just got to
that's
have the
part that
hustle
I
and the
love.
creativity.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
There's my first deal ever that I bought was a 2-lot, and I didn't even realize it until I got in.
I didn't even.
And I'd sent out a mailer. He had called. I went over to the property. We agreed on a price, and I went home and started researching the lot a little bit more. And I was like, I noticed that this lot was bigger than all the rest on the block. And then I went into the city ordinance, and I was like, oh, I could definitely split those. So this deal that I just agreed on got better because now I get 2 lots out of it.
Exactly. Exactly.
But it just takes the extra thought of like, what else can I do with this? And
yes.
do you ever watch Ted Lasso?
Yes, I do.
All right, so he has a quote. I don't want to be an umbrella in a brainstorm. And if you have that mindset when you're looking at real estate, no options off the table. Throw everything out. What can we do? You'll start thinking of more and more options of what you can do. I mean, your flop.
That's true.
If you had an umbrella in that brainstorm, you wouldn't have thought like, all right, Airbnb the back half, and now I just created 2 streams of income on that one.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
The creativity is huge in this whole thing.
Oh yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Funding creativity, housing creativity,
and that actually touches on the next thing, funding, because I know that's the next thing that you're like, I want to get the next one, but right now I'm going to say you're growing your wealth in your rentals.
Yeah.
So you've got your long train going, and it's chugging up to speed, but you're not seeing the bank account grow, but your overall wealth is getting there, which is awesome.
Oh yeah.
With those private lenders that you started with, and with those lines of credits and the HELOC, do you see that as an avenue now that you'd go back to in terms of funding your next one?
Absolutely. I think that again, that's the thing that I'm very comfortable with because I've done that, multiple times. I also, when it comes to, I got a pretty large HELOC on my house. And so it's, I still can buy cash in Mississippi with that HELOC. And one of the things about lines of credit and kind of credit card debt is that your first payment on the total balance, if it's $100,000 HELOC and you got $1,000 payment, and you make that $1,000 payment, your next payment is actually getting less. And so, as you hold that, you can, those, instead of being a one-way loan where you put money in and you can't take it out, I can literally pay that $1,000 and get it back. And I can keep doing that all the way up until I refinance the project. And one of the things that was pretty cool with refinancing projects like that, you can make the bank pay those creditors off in a loan consolidation. They'll pay them down to zero, and they'll underwrite them like you have zero debt on those, and thus helping you qualify for the loan. So I'll probably continue to use a lot of my available credit to rehab, probably even for down payments, in conjunction with maybe a hard money lender or some type of private money. But I think for the most part, I'll still be using my lines as my primary source of funding.
Yeah.
until I get to something too big to, to handle.
Is that in your future? Are you
So,
trying to go big here? Are you still in your one bite at a time, take on the small, not the smaller things. I don't want to make them seem like they're minimal, but the more
yeah,
manageable project in your backyard kind of thing.
I do like the manageable projects. Again, as interest rates, get higher, you have to be a little bit more creative on,
Yeah.
I guess, trusting the asset that you have, to pay off, some of the income. I don't want to turn my real estate career into a job. I really don't. The last 2 or 3 years taught me that. I complete gut projects on almost every front. I do believe now that I can find properties that don't need a lot of rehab, and the conversion strategy to where I can do a pad split on a property that makes it to where I'm seeing a single family home like it's a duplex.
Yeah.
Most people aren't looking at those properties like that. And I think in a sense that's the easy button. I'm interested in the easy button. I don't know if I want to, like I said, my real estate investment career into a job, because that's what it has been. And I'm not saying this because, it's something. For the last 3 years, it has almost been a job. And right now, I just want to chill out just a little bit, grow it with the easy button. And that's why I talked about my patience now. I'm waiting on the right deal so that I don't have to bust my butt to try to turn it into something.
Yeah.
I've seen some flips where it's like, okay, if I don't help out over here, then I'm going to end up spending too much money. I just changed that to a job. And I'll say this. The first 3 properties were in Mississippi. And because it was long distance, hey, I can jump on the phone and say, hey, I got a refrigerator coming. Hey, I need a plumber over here. And I can get those jobs done like that. My very first property in Florida that was in my backyard, I was over there every day, every single day doing something. And I realized, wow, I've just turned this into my job. And it was the difference. And honestly, because it was long distance, I felt like a business owner. But when it came into my backyard, I felt like a contractor. I felt like a real estate agent because I was trying to sell it. I felt like a property manager. I felt like a landlord. And those things, they are there. If, again, because it was in my backyard, I couldn't help but to go over there. It pulled me over there. But when they were in Mississippi, I could call somebody. And that's how I do want to run my business.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. The one thing I liked about the Bigger Pockets is, I think it was the first show, which is what turned me onto it. They were saying, like, if you want to get into this, it's not easy. There's going to be struggles. There's going to be pain. There's going to be chaos.
Yes,
and it was
absolutely.
true. I mean, when I first started, it was my full-time job. I just got my agent's license, and then I bought this house, and I felt like I was at the house every day. If I wasn't working for my job and I had free time, I was at the house doing something. Did I know how to do it? No, I would sleep. Like when I got home before I went to bed, I'd be YouTube University on how to do roofing. It was just drinking out of a fire hose to try and absorb all the information. And it did feel like a second job. And that is true.
It did.
That BRRRR strategy, it is a second job.
No doubt.
Unless you have the capital to actually contract it out. But not everybody starting out has the capital to send to a GC and to pay for all the subs.
Yes, I agree. I don't have the capital yet either, because even on the property that I did in my backyard, I spent a lot of time over there. It cost me a lot, but I also did a lot. When I did the pad split on my personal home, I did all of that construction myself. And so I know that I have to do it up to a point to where, I can start finding better deals that make it to where I don't have to do it. But again, that's where my new patience comes in at, because I want to find a deal that I can pay somebody else to do it, if I have to do it, so be it. But at this point in time, I understand real estate investing as a time weighted type of thing, because over time it's where the value comes in.
Yeah.
And so,
and I know you don't,
yep.
you said you don't want to make it your job. Do you see yourself using real estate as a vehicle to like lower your W-2 position?
Yes,
Is that your
absolutely.
end goal? Is that where you want to be?
Yes, that is my end goal. And I will say I read a book called Set for Life by Scott Trench.
Yep.
And it was
We all read that one?
literally,
I think we all
oh
read that
yeah,
one.
man, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad too, but I'm gonna be honest with you.
That was my
Set for
first
Life
one.
changed
That was
the
my
game.
first book.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And so right now what I'm seeing is, like I said, I'm running the Airbnb out of my personal house now. I don't have a mortgage. This is what that Set for Life talks about. And if I can do that again to pay my car note, now I don't have a car note. Now the need for money has just changed from, I don't need to be a millionaire. I just need to be financially independent. And so that is at least my first step. Once I get there, now I feel like I can invest in real estate for fun,
Yep.
and that's how I see this going. But initially I am, kind of focusing on trying to lower I'm gonna call it my need for money
Yep.
by house hacking my personal house. And I'll probably buy my next project. I'm hoping that it is another primary home so that I can get the best financing for it and split that one, move out the one that I'm in and rent that, because that's
Yeah.
an income that's waiting to be realized over there. And from there, you know, that's just a little bit more income to lower my need to have the W-2.
Yeah.
And so, but once I get there, I don't have a dollar sign in mind anymore. I used to, when I first started, I'm like, oh, I need $1 million and, this much money in the bank. But I'm seeing that very differently now, because to not need income because my assets are paying for themselves is definitely a game changer.
Yeah.
To me, it's just as important as having $1 million in the bank,
Yeah.
which I'm a long way from that.
But if you keep
Maybe I
this
should
up,
say
you will get
network.
there. It'll get there if you
Yes,
keep that up.
absolutely. Yeah.
Is your
Yeah.
Now we're thinking future here. I know we've been talking about it.
Uh-huh.
Is that agent still sending you deals that you're looking at? And if so, like what are some things that you're seeing in your market that are limiting I guess jumping at the next one? Because we've got limits here. Dan is analyzing properties every day.
Yeah.
And there are just things that we're seeing constantly in today's market that we're like, I like that opportunity, but
Okay.
the numbers don't work.
Yeah. Mississippi as a market, they do have inexpensive homes. Now, right before I sold that duplex, I turned it into an Airbnb. And what I saw with that demographic, because one of my questions on Airbnb, hey, I'm so glad you booked. We're so pleased that you booked our place. But I do like to ask, what brings you to Jackson, Mississippi?
I was just going to ask that.
And yeah, and so I began to understand what my demographics were. We had a lot of nurses that came through there, and actually had a 3-month deal with a nursing agency that were placing nurses in on one side of my duplex. The rent over there went from 1,000 to 2,000 on one side.
We just started looking into that same philosophy. So very good idea.
God. Yep. I'm doing it here on Airbnb as well. I got a couple of 30-day stays on my Airbnb at my property here in Gainesville. But once I did that, I started to understand that, hey, I can't buy properties for long-term tenants. I have to buy them for mid-term or, Airbnb type of tenants to do that. But I found that there was a lot of oil and gas people coming through. There was a lot of working class people coming through Jackson, Mississippi. Now, nobody wants a 2-1 property, but those are the cheapest ones. And if you would convert those over to some type of working class property, I think, Airbnb, midterm type rentals, I think those will work in that market. And again, this is me looking at these properties through the lens of, let me say, not through the lens of regular long-term tenants, because we count on them to work at Walmart to pay our rent. But if we count on a nurse that's coming through, if we count on Airbnb for the tenant to pay in advance before they stay, it's a little bit more comfortable for me when it comes to that. But I bet you the 2-1s in that market, they're probably everywhere. Nobody wants those, for a family, but they work perfect for that particular model.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that pad split that you've been talking about, and we actually had a guest on that did boarding houses. So she'd buy the 4 or 5 bedroom, multiple bath, and just rent out per room.
Right. Absolutely. Again, like I say, strategies they can be all over the place. Even the property before I pad split my house, I literally was thinking about putting up a few extra walls and trying to do some assisted living. I know there's a lot of startup with that. It's a lot of legality, but again, it's a residential property that you and I can see, from a contracting standpoint, how to add some inexpensive 2x4s with some drywall sandwiched in between to add a extra room. But the model is not that of a long-term tenant. And I say that, I always talk about that because I am a buy and hold investor, versus a flipper. And so, I never really, I guess I tried that one time to flip. But when you look at it that way, you can, in a lot of cases, with the interest rates now, with the, whatever the mortgage is going to be, you need that extra to be able to buy, property still. And it's just our cycle that we're in right now.
Yeah. And I'm waiting for those, those interest rates to go down because they are clogging things up.
Oh my God. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yep.
Fingers crossed that goes down quickly, but we'll see whenever that happens.
Absolutely. So
awesome. Well, we are coming up on an hour. I don't want to keep you anymore. I know you're
that's no
traveling.
Traveling today.
But what is like I know you gave a little bit of advice early on the show. So with you in your mindset thinking you are a rookie investor, what is like the tip you would give somebody who's on that threshold of like, all right, I'm either in love with my W-2 or I hate my W-2, but I need to do something more. I want to create some wealth for me and my family. What is the advice you give them to try and tip them over the edge to jump in? I'm putting you on the spot with this one, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a really good one. No, that's a good one. But, I don't want to say jump because in some cases, well, how about this one? If real estate is what they're looking for, get to a real estate investment meetup. We have one in Gainesville, Florida. And over the years, this same conversation that I'm having with you, we have at a table drinking beer. Our meetup is a networking event, not I'm going to train you on how to wholesale. I don't have a big PowerPoint up. We sit around and we talk about, hey, this guy just had some lending. Hey, she's trying to buy her first house. And the community that I run with right now builds so much confidence in being able to do that. So, I think the mindset of understanding that it's regular people like me doing it may be the push that I think I would suggest to somebody. Get with somebody who is just like you, rookie like me, who has done some different things, who has failed, who has had some success, and just meet them. In our group, we got so many people doing so many different things. I guarantee you it's somebody there that's doing exactly, or that knows how to do exactly what you're trying to do. So, but just getting the guidance, the mindset, and again, like you can see, I'm decently well read in the real estate space. Read up and build your confidence. So,
that's good advice. And I actually
Oh yeah.
The first thing I ever went to was with my dad. We went to a meetup, a RIA meetup. In Brookfield, Wisconsin. And it was so I went into it thinking like, okay, all these people are gonna be suit and tie and they're all gonna be no, jeans, t-shirt, they go up, hey, I got this house for sale, this is the price, and then they hand the microphone off. And the next person would be like, hey, I'm looking for this asset class, this is what I do. It was very, very informal. Everybody, you could ask a random person, hey, I'm struggling with this problem. And either they'd have the answer or they'd say, like, go over to that table and talk to that person. Very friendly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which is super, super
we try
cool.
to keep ours. Yeah, we try to keep ours informal on purpose because we think that's what makes our meetup so much more unique than any other ones in our little city. So
no, that's cool. That's a great advice. And for our listeners, if they want to get a hold of you, is there a best way to reach out, ask you questions?
Clarence Harris on Facebook, CJ Harris Group at outlook.com is my email. I do really like helping people. And that's what's interesting about the Airbnb space. I just like being nice to people. So I'm that guy. You can always go on Facebook. Gainesville, Florida, Bigger Pockets Meetup Group is our group. And
I was just going to ask if you're on
join
the
that group. Yes, we are. And I'll be at the conference this weekend. This is October the 13th. But I'm going to the conference down in Orlando this weekend.
You are awesome.
To kind of, yes, I am. I will be there. So
very cool. I couldn't sneak away, so I won't be able to make it. But I've been getting the emails, and I read them, and then I like disappoint. Like I have to back out of them because I can't make it. But
well, I tell you what, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. And you know what? One last piece of advice. Listen to YouTube is a great place. And what's interesting about YouTube and getting advice from people, when I went to those banks to get the money, somebody said, just go ask the bank. That's what I did. I just went to ask the bank. They're telling you what to do. You probably just scared to do it. Mm-hmm. So that's one thing. Listen to people. They'll tell you exactly how to do what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So
very good. Very good advice.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to hear your story. I'm happy to hear where you're going.
Well, thank you.
And I know with your hustle that you have, you're gonna get there.
I hope so.
So we will touch base. We'll touch base with you again because I want to see where you're at.
Okay, I would love to come back.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you spending the time. Your weather looks way better than mine coming from your window. Ours is like great. We're rainy for the next 4 to 5 days.
Yeah,
it's brutal.
No, it's good over here. We are good to go. So
and enjoy the BPCon, like Dan was saying.
Oh I'll tell you guys all about it. Yep, I think it's going to be a blast.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank you so much, Dan. All right, thank you.